Welcome back to the We Was Dragons podcast. I'm your host Brandon,
I'm your other host, Chanel.
and we just had a fuckload of audio problems, but we good. We
Correct.
good.
Correct. We're
Uh,
here
s-
now.
so we are back to recap episode 3 of House of the Dragon. Just for anybody listening on podcast form, we did record last week. So if you were watching
hmm
live on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, thank you. But for those of you on podcast, you didn't get an episode last week because my audio came out horrible. You couldn't hear anything. We apologize. Chanel and I got busy. We didn't get a chance to re-record, so we didn't put out an
Facts.
episode. But we're back for episode 3, and we'll be back for every episode going forward. So don't worry about that. But just for everyone listening, we do a multicast on this. So we stream live on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and now on Chanel's Instagram. So at Chanel Creating on Twitter and Instagram, at That Cool Black Nerd on Twitter, and at the We Was Watching YouTube page. So you can go to all those places, like and subscribe, so that we can try to hit those algorithms. If you're one
Here.
of our OGs listening on podcasts on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to that or give us a 5-star review. If you give us a 5-star review, we'll read it on the show. And you can interact with the show at wewasdragonspod@gmail.com. If we get an email from you, we will read it on the show. Last week we did read emails from Sonia. Sonia, sorry if you're listening. We read those last week. But
We did.
we're glad that you're back. And we are just as hyped for the show as you are. So
Facts.
again, leave us an email at wewasdragonspod@gmail.com. Tell us any theories you have of the show. Don't spoil anything from the books, but tell us what you think about the show, what you expect to happen, so that we can keep it going. That being said, Chanel,
I have to tell you something.
please don't talk about this stuff. What is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Oh, okay. It's messing up a little bit now, but so I'm gonna close my other tabs. I'm not gonna tell you what I looked up, but I looked some stuff up.
Why would you look some stuff up?
Am I backed up again? Okay. Wait. Give me a second to sync up. What the heck? Okay. Pretend nothing happened.
Okay.
I looked it up because I just wanted to know. I had seen something about how Rhaenyra's youngest sons don't like her. That's kind of what I was investigating, and luckily, what I saw didn't like confirm that. But I just looked up what happens to them babies that she shipped off.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. She shipped them kids off like a Jamaican mom
What's the point of watching the show? You're going to spoil yourself.
because it's not gonna. That's not gonna be in the show.
You don't know that's going to be in the
They're gonna.
show.
Oh wow, you're right. What if that's like season 6?
What you think? The show's only 2 seasons?
I don't know. I can't imagine. Like this man wrote so many books.
Yes, he wrote a lot of books.
It's hard to really quantify. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure I spoiled something for myself, but it was like it is really sad. Like there's a lot of sad stuff happening. And there's also a lot of incredulous things happening. But yeah, I looked up some stuff. I know when Damon dies.
Why would you do this?
I don't know.
What is the point of watching if you're just going to say, I'm going to tell myself what happens?
Well, the good news is I X out pretty quickly. I just get like a high level and then so I just know like okay, it's not happening this episode.
That takes away all the fun of the show. Now you're
It
not going to be
doesn't though.
shocked by any of this stuff.
No, I got to a place where I used to hate spoilers. I do still hate spoilers, by the way. Don't spoil like a show for me. But I got to a point where like if there was a movie I knew I never wanted to watch, I would just like read the summary and then I would forget stuff. So the thing is like I'll still kind of forget it. That's why it's fine.
No, what happens is when it leads up to it, you're going to be like, oh, this is when this thing happens. And then you
Maybe
remember. That's how it works.
that could be what happens.
All right, so we're talking about episode 3, The Burning Mill of House of the Dragon. Hot D is what they call it in the streets. Hot D. You ain't know that? You ain't know
Nope,
they called it Hot D?
not fucking with that.
You don't like Hot D?
Oh, you mean like House of the Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
It took me a
Hot
minute just
D.
to be. Uh-huh. No.
That's not for you.
I'm still Dim Dragons or Dim Thrones or whatever you want. Like it could. First of all, it's still called Game of Thrones if you're black.
Comfy
Because if I
cozy.
say I'm about to go watch, if I say I'm about to watch Game of Thrones, you know I'm watching the new one, and you know it's House of the Dragon.
Maybe, or maybe you're reviewing the old Game of Thrones.
True. Oh wow. Okay,
So,
look at me. I vamp while I plug in my computer.
so this episode I found to be very intriguing. There was a lot of talk in this episode, not really any action at all. It was one action scene actually, but very little action in this episode, which is fine because they got a budget, and I imagine we're gonna get some big ass fights at some point this season. And so I like the idea of building up all these characters. And the last scene this episode was excellent acting by those two actresses. Very, very good acting by them to convey that
Yeah, pretty
emotion.
good, pretty good.
So I really liked all the.
I finally got. Yeah, that last scene was very satisfying for me from like 2 years ago when I was mad about what happened.
Yeah. And I tried to tell you, you were like, oh, she didn't actually believe that. She was just looking for something. And I was like, Allison is a person who believes all this shit. She don't know no better. She believed that shit with her heart. And she
It's
absolutely.
just
Now it's too
it's just
late. She was right.
truly
We'll get
yeah.
to that.
Oh,
But it's too
oh my
late to
god.
do anything different
It
because,
just shows for an overthinker like me, it validates that sometimes you just got to talk through everything. Sometimes you just got to be like, okay, he said this and I said that and then she said that because if I just go and be like, oh, we broke up, but then I'm not like, oh, we broke up because like he loves me, but he has to let me go, whatever, right? Like you might go and have a crusade against this man when if I had just clarified, we could have just bonded over this moment. So this was a very interesting I guess one thing that happened is like if you've been team green, I don't know what you've been doing, but basically I just got the validation I needed about hating a woman because I usually don't like to do that, but I felt validated today.
well, this just made me feel sorry for Allison, to be completely honest. But
Hmm,
we'll get to that. So
interesting.
usually I
Interesting emotion.
do blacks versus greens, but today we had a whole third of the episode in the Riverlands, which kind of
Mm, very interesting.
had both of them. So
Encapsulates,
Chanel,
yeah, we got you.
do you want to start in Dragonstone? Do you want to start in King's Landing or in the Riverlands?
Dragonstone.
All right, so we start in the Dragonstone. So we see Rhaenyra's crew burying the Cargill twins, Sir Eric and Sir Eric,
Hmm,
with an
hmm,
E and
hmm.
an A, and they were basically like Jaehaerys, her son Jace, he's starting to get heated. And he was basically like, "Man, I can't believe this
Hmm.
bitch came all the way over here to do this shit. Why are we treating them like this?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're like you're selling Sir Eric's grave with Sir Auric.
And she was like, "That nigga was just doing his duty. Like, be mad at the people who sent him, not him."
Right.
And Rhaenys tells Rhaenyra that Otto would never allow this to happen. Hotter blood has prevailed. Now, mind you, they don't know that Otto's been fired. They don't know that. That hasn't gotten
Mhm.
to them yet. They don't know that Sir Christian Cole's the hand. They don't know the ends of none of that shit. So Rhaenys is just like, yeah, dog, Otto not this fucking stupid. So somebody else got the ear of the king at this point.
I mean again, it shows the stack of I mean there's an age factor, right? There's like a misogynoir factor in terms of well, okay, how do I want to say I want to make a side point. I don't want to be like, oh, girls are so mature. What I'm trying to say is like there's no word for like men being stupid. And I think that or and men being willingly and like actively choosing to be stupid and stay stupid. And that's what's happening with Aemon. But anyway,
They're
the
toxic,
blacks have
toxic
I mean,
masculinity. That's
I
exactly
guess
what's
that's a close.
happening.
Yeah, you're right. So it's toxic masculinity forcing out the wisdom, and then you have Rhaenys who's like, "I've been around the block, bro. I know what's happening." And I think it is such a relief to see that like Rhaenyra has good guidance, but then it's also like so sad for America that they don't have the right president. You know, it's just like that's literally what it feels like. It feels like they are. It feels like who would be a good president? Oh, it literally feels like Hillary Clinton or Diane Warren is. Was her name Diane Warren? Yeah, that's
Elizabeth
the lady
Warren.
from Elizabeth.
Jesus,
God
you
bless.
you
It's a
just made
long. It's
her
been a
old ass
long.
Diane Feinstein.
It's a long day. But yeah, so it's it. I think that Elizabeth Warren, like that's the president we should have had, right? But then you have fucking Aemon, who is pick a man. You
Aegon.
know, he's in
Aegon.
Aegon because Aemon is his brother. Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Long day at the
It's okay.
office.
It's okay.
Let's
I
keep going.
got you. So yeah. So and but they're absolutely making a point to tell you that
Mm-hmm.
these men's is wilding. Like they're
Yeah.
making a point to tell you that. Allison is telling you that. Rhaenys is telling you that, and Rhaenyra is telling
Hmm.
you that. Um, and
But do
so
you feel like Allison is, tell me if I'm being unfair to her. Is she only here because of her own greed at some point?
I don't
Maybe
think
not
she's
greed, but
here
like there
because
was
of her
something.
greed. I think that she is a zealot to an extent, and I think that she believed a lot of shit wholeheartedly, and she
Right.
was like, "I'm right, so what the fuck am I going to back down for?" And to be fair, which we'll get into, Otto filled a bunch of shit in her head, some not true, some
Hmm.
true, about like, "Hey, they gonna kill your kids if you don't do
Yeah,
this."
you're right. You're right. You're right.
Which
Right. There was
the
some
way
fear
people are
mongering.
acting, they would absolutely kill that nigga to make sure that he has no claim to the crown. So she was reacting to some of that stuff too. And then, we saw her be some
That's
hypocrite
fair.
shit with Kristen Cole. So you can't let that shit go either. But no, I'll get to Allison because I have some thoughts on her.
Okay.
So Rhaenys
Okay.
tells her that hotter blood has prevailed. She says, uh, soon everybody gonna be fighting so much they're not even gonna know why this whole war started. And Rhaenyra was like, "I know why the war started. They tried to usurp my throne." And Rhaenys was like, "Oh, you sure? Or was it when the child
Hmm.
was beheaded? Or
I
was it?
mean, facts.
Or was it?
Facts all over the
Yeah.
world.
Or was it when Aemon killed Luke? Or was it when your kids took Luke's when Luke took Aemon's eye? Because remember when they all got together at Viserys' last dinner,
Hmm.
Allison had basically bent the knee. She was like, "Yeah, I think Rhaenyra would be a fine queen. Like, I'm done all this stupid ass fighting. Let Rhaenyra be the
Facts.
queen." And they were all in the table together. And then Aemon, because he was salty that he got his eye taken out, he stood up and he called them kids
Hmm.
bastards in front of
Hmm.
everybody. And he reignited that whole
Oh
shit when
yeah, I
everybody was
remember that. I
calmed
remember
down.
that. Yeah.
So was it when Luke took Aemon's eye? And she said, "We teeter now on the point where none of it will matter, and the desire to
Hmm.
kill and burn take hold, and reason is forgotten. There may be another way." And she was
Hmm.
like, "You can try to reach out to Allison." And she was like, and Rhaenys said Allison came to her in the hours after Viserys' death and basically expressed that she wanted this shit to be worked out. And she said, "There's no war so hateful to the gods as a war between kin." Uh,
Fair.
so they basically saying like, "Hey man, the gods, if y'all fighting each other, that's the worst shit y'all can do."
Hmm.
And so Rhaenyra was like, "Yeah, that bitch sent me a raven. I ain't read that shit though." Uh, it's
Hilarious.
basically
She
what
said I
she
left her
said.
on red.
And
Hmm.
Rhaenys was like, "Allison, she was like, why would I read that shit? She killed my fucking son." She
Yeah.
permitted it
Yep.
at least,
Yep.
and then Rhaenys was like, "Oh, like you permitted them to kill Jaehaerys?" And the Rhaenyra was like, "Oh fuck, you fucking got me," and she was like,
Exactly.
"God damn it, you got me." And so the next time we're in Dragonstone, we see Mysaria. She out on the deck enjoying the view. She got her feet kicked up, watching the dragon
Yeah, I mean,
fly
and
around.
that like we said, she was gonna stick around because she's like, honestly, she wasn't going home to do anything anyway. So it was just like good timing to be like, you know
No,
what?
she
I
was
just
supposed to
did
go
the
to
Queen's life.
Essos.
But I'm saying like she wasn't going home to do anything. So I
No,
feel like it's good that she like it's just a new adventure for her. So I'm glad that she saved the queen because now she gets to, you know, get another chance to be that girl again.
Yeah, she basically said to Masari was like, "Hey, thank you. Like I heard you stopped and saw Sir Eric and went and called the
Mhm.
cops." And she was like, "Yeah, I called the cops." And she was like, "Well, you saved my life." And Masari was like, "Well,
How
what is
much
a
is your
queen's
life
life
worth?
worth?"
And
Uh,
she said, "Oh my god, like you want a prize?" She said, "You don't want to give me a prize?"
yeah, yeah, that's
Like
exactly what
what?
she said. I don't get no reward. Like your life ain't worth nothing.
Yeah,
Uh,
you just gonna tell me thank you? Wow. Okay.
and Massaria says, "I know the Red Keep better than everybody. The movements that's worth more than gold. And I want to punish Otto's stank ass and his family.
Mhm.
So give me a
Yeah, like last week she was basically saying like I don't fuck with royals, but now she's like, okay, if you're different, then I can get back to being like the white worm or whatever the fuck.
yeah." She said, "I want a place on your court." And she said, "Look, either you or the usurper are gonna rule these people. Like one of y'all is gonna
Mhm.
rule these people. And you the
Mhm.
only one who showed mercy. That nigga ain't showed nobody no mercy. So I'm gonna go with the one that shows mercy."
Facts.
Um, and so then she was like, "Hey dog, why that dragon acting like that though? He tripping." And Rhaenyra was like,
Like, yeah, sea smoke is still just like whining.
I love how she says it. She says, "Sea Smoke, the dragon of my late lord husband, has grown restless. We cannot know why." And I love how they talk on the show. It always trips me out with these basic ass statements. That's so many words to
Yeah.
just be like, "Sea Smoke miss her daddy," essentially.
Yeah, I texted you another line that like Damon says later where I was like, I know this is the kind of language you love hearing.
I love this shit so much. I wish people
Yeah.
talked like that. It's so formal.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and so Masari was like, "Oh, he lonely." And so then Rhaenyra left her, and Rhaena was already waiting. So she had back to back meetings. Like she was busy as fuck this morning. And so she had a meeting with Rhaena, and Rhaenyra was like, "All right, Rhaena, listen. I'm sending Joffrey to my cousin, uh,
Mhm.
one of the Aarons. I forget her first name, but she's
Mhm.
an Aaron.
Mhm.
And we know that because her mama's an Aaron. So they related, she got the Aaron blood in her. And she pledged an army in return of a dragon for protection. And she was like, Aegon of Viserys will accompany her two blonde young
Mhm.
kids. And I want you to go with them. And then I want you to call that king over in Pentos where you were staying with your daddy and your mama, where your mama died. And Raina was
Mhm.
like, "You mean where my mama died? You want me to call them niggas?" And Rhaenyra
Yeah,
was
she's
like,
just like, I know you're not sending me away.
"Yeah, she
Just
was."
when it's getting good.
And Rhaenyra was like, "Look, if he'll have you, call them, because ain't nobody going over there to fuck with them. Like you, that's where you'll be safe over there."
Which is
And
fair. And she does give her an extremely important job, but it does feel like she's telling her to be the mammy, you know?
yes, yes. And Rhaenyra was like, "I need you to be the mother to them that I cannot treat them and train them
Like
as a dragon, and you're
she's
gonna
like,
guard these eggs."
you're literally punishing me for using protection and never having a baby. That's crazy.
But here's the thing: she don't got no dragon.
Right.
So Rhaenyra's dragon egg never hatched. That was always a thing with her and Damon.
Mhm.
That's why
Mhm.
Damon always looked at her sideways because her dragon never hatched.
Mhm.
So she's always kind of felt a little out, like an outcast a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But when she was out there, Baela comes up and oh no, Rhaena asked about Baela and she was like, "You kicking me out because I ain't got no dragon." And Rhaenyra was like, "No, this is very important. I wouldn't ask you if we didn't need somebody to do this. But I need to
Mhm.
get those people to safety because if this shit goes bad, they're gonna all die and they innocents." Um, and so then we
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
she's sending her kids away to protect them, but it's also very sad.
it is. So then we had another meeting. Rhaenyra just got meetings all day. Like her Zoom calendar is just full. And so her team's calendar, I should say. And so then she shows up at the council meeting, and they was like, uh, "What's up with Damon? We ain't heard shit from him." And they was like, "Well, we just gotta wait. Hopefully he all right, but we ain't heard nothing from him." And they was like, "Look, if we ain't heard shit from Damon, you got 5 dragons. Send them niggas out and start burning shit. The fuck you doing?"
And this has to be like real life war councils, real life like military. What's it called when all the military people oh my god,
In
all
the
the
situation
joint
room.
chiefs of staff. No joint, yeah, but like joint, like the joint. chiefs of staff or
Yeah.
whatever it's called, the people who talk to the president, like let's just do it basically. And the problem is if both sides can't hold off, then that's obviously how the war kicks off. But it is like terrifying because it literally is like a the prisoner's game of, oh my god, game, it's basically just game theory, and I'm not gonna be able to think of anything right now this time of night, but it's game theory where like it only works if you both hold out, but like
Yes.
literally once one person like falters, it's a wrap for the whole, like the whole of the realm. So
Yes.
it's very crazy seeing all how all these things are at play. And then I think like what Rainey said in the beginning is just pertinent throughout the rest of it, right? It's like nobody knows where it starts anymore. It's just like the fact that it's not going to end is what's important. Like, is it ending or not? And we have an answer to that at the end of the episode.
Yeah, you ain't that sleepy. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is. It's game theory. Because Rhaenyra basically says it. She goes, "Why the fuck do I need to burn shit? The fear of dragons is enough, right?" So she's basically saying like, it's almost the analogy of nukes, right? Like nukes are bad, but nukes are
Right.
also good in a way
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
since everybody got nukes, we ain't had no world wars because everybody
Mhm.
knows it's mutual destruction. We're just going to destroy each
Until
other.
you get a Jong Un in the
Yes, until you
building
get a
who's like,
crazy
I don't
person.
really give until you, he's like, I don't really
Yes,
give a fuck. And then you have Trump who's like, I don't give a fuck either. And then you're like, okay, wow, Dance the Dragon's great.
until you get a crazy person. But as long as you have even bad people who are reasonable, wouldn't do that shit,
Yeah.
right? It just
It's the
protects you.
reasonable of it all, yeah.
Yes,
I
the
mean, it's
reasonableness.
also like when you think about it, this is clearly not how we were meant to live, because the idea that like the ch- the oldest son, no matter how old he is, becomes king is, remember like the oh my god, who became king at 7? Not the girl that was like kick ass, but like there was somebody in Game, there were just kids in Game of Thrones that were like supposed to be king and queen. Eh,
Hmm.
There should be some, some restrictions put in place, right, to avoid situations where there's some asshole on the throne. And so anyway, I don't know. It's just very interesting seeing. I know this is all fake,
Well,
but
that's how democracy got created.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's
Yeah.
like it's feudalism. It's why nepotism is so dangerous. It's like the bottom line. I guess I'm trying to get to is why I think I was thinking today about like why people like this, why it's so popular, and it really is like a completely made up thing that makes so much sense and could very well be like real because it's so based in like real relationships and really good writing. So, I just think about that all the time. About like this is why
Hmm.
anybody can watch this and care because yeah, if you have some asshole in charge of everything, Oppenheimer's dropping that bomb.
I said Rhaenyra needs a hand bad. Like she don't got no hand. Rhaenys is
She,
acting like that, but she not official.
yeah.
She need an
You think
official
Rhaenys
hand.
wants it?
I think she wants it because she looks to Rhaenys
Mhm.
for counsel, but she need to give her that title so the other people
No,
will shut the
I'm
fuck up.
saying is for Rhaenys, would it be? Oh, that's a fact. For Rhaenys, would it be an insult to be hand and not queen?
No, because she can't be queen
Okay,
anymore. That's
right. Okay,
that's
fair
long
enough.
gone for her. And she's always talked about she's come to grips with that. So she's good.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah. She's definitely happier as well.
so then they start questioning her and they was like, "Hey, maybe you should get up out of here and let us take over." And she was
They
like,
literally said maybe you should go to safe paths. She said, "You're lucky all y'all did was brainstorm." Like, she's
"Yes."
basically like, if I had found out that one of y'all had even like scheduled a plane ticket for me or had been looking up flight deals, it's a wrap for y'all.
She
She
called it
she literally
treason.
said treason,
Yeah, she called
yes,
it
to
treason.
his face. She said, "Quit playing with me."
And so the Rhaenyra said, "Look, we're gonna win this shit with an army, not with dragons." And she was like, she'll let the council know what she's thinking about, and she leaves. And then
Yeah, she acknowledges it. Yeah.
Rhaenys comes up and was like, it'll do all y'all to know that she wears the crown of my grandsire, Jaehaerys the Conciliator, a prudent ruler, the wisest of Targaryen kings, whose reign outlasts every other, including Aegon the Conqueror, and just walked off. She basically just dropped the mic to him. Like,
Yeah, she was talking that shit. Wait, question. Okay, I'm so sorry. Are we You're gonna be so mad at me. Are we before we're before the Targaryen that went crazy, right?
yeah, that's the Mad King. That's Daenerys' daddy.
What's his name again?
I don't know his name, but I know his
Okay.
nickname's the Mad King. That's
Is he one of Is he one of Rhaenyra's?
No, this
He
is
must be.
hundreds of years before then. I think
But
it's
I'm
like
saying
200
no,
years
no,
before then.
no. I'm saying like, is he in the bloodline
Well,
of
he's a
Rhaenyra and Daemon
Targaryen,
them?
but I don't know
Okay,
like who his granddaddy
right. Oh
was
yeah.
or great
It's
granddaddy
just
was.
it's just interesting because it's like
Somebody on this show is the granddaddy or
it's the great great
grandmother of him,
of the
but
Mad
we don't know
King.
who it
Wow.
is, or at least I haven't looked
And
it
I
up.
think we said that was because it was incest, right? Like we
Well,
feel like
they have
incest movies
incest,
are
but
crazy.
also, I mean, we've seen all the Targaryen. Well, we'll get to that, but we've seen most of the Targaryens now that's around. Um,
So I'm saying, so what? Why did he go crazy again? And I know this is unrelated, but
well, they don't know why he went crazy. People assume it has
oh,
something to do with incest
okay,
because they
okay.
had so
Well,
much incest that it was just like he got fucked up.
it just got crazy after a while. Okay, I'm looking it up. Keep going.
So then, okay, so then Rhaenys is outside talking to Corlys, and I was like, these niggas actually love each other. Like, this the only like I think Daemon and Rhaenyra have love for each other, but I don't think they are like in love with each other. Corlys and Rhaenys are clearly in love with each other, but Corlys is so like such a man. He's such a fucking man. And Rhaenys was like talking about I said bye to Rhaena before she left, and Corlys was like, I wish her well. And Rhaenys was like, that's all you got to say. That like that's one of your like these are your heirs. And he was like, who, Joffrey? That nigga's 6 years old. He don't know shit about the sea. What the fuck he finna do? And she was like, okay, if not Joffrey, why not name Rhaena your heir? And he was like, Rhaena? And I was like,
The wait, what do you? The Lord of the Seas. It's like there's a female version of that word, sir.
and Rhaenys was like, clearly Rhaenyra would not care if you named a woman heir, obviously. So you could do that shit if you want to. Um, and Rhaenys was like, we are at war. Something could happen to you any day. Then what's going to happen with Driftmark? Who going to be in charge? Like, who going to run this shit? Who are you passing your knowledge down to? Like, somebody got to be the next in line. And the Corlys was like, well, it's good. It's well that I'm a good sailor then. And Rhaenys looked at him like, this nigga. He was like, I got
You're
shit
not
to do.
like
I'm
you
out.
almost died already, bro. By the way, like you almost died and you're not thinking of it. She's basically saying like, "Where's your will?" And let's talk about your last testament. And he's like, "Yeah, I got this," and that's terrifying when he almost died last year or last season, whatever.
So then this is when they about to leave, and Rhaena's about to leave, and she looks salty as shit. She gotta go to Pentos. She want to fight. And Rhaenyra was like, I can't spare a fighting dragon, so take Stormcloud and Tyraxes. They will grow. So they like little dragons.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like tiny, tiny dragons, but they're little dragons. They're big, so they're big enough that you can ride, but like to those people, they probably
Yeah, they're
scary, but they wouldn't do shit in this fight.
yeah, but they
Type of a
also
thing.
have to be like carried in a cage. That's how small they are. Like they're not. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not like we can mount them. Excuse me, and take this voyage.
So Baela comes up to Rhaena and was like, be safe. And, you do a great service to the queen and you'll be happy to be out of harm's way. And Rhaena was like, don't patronize me, bitch. Like, you're my sister. What the fuck you doing?
And she's like, no, 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 for real, like for real. This is great. It'll be okay.
And then Baela was like, well, maybe this will make things better. And Rhaenyra calls her over and was like, look, these the rest of the dragon eggs we got. I'm putting you in charge of this shit. You are basically the person in charge of holding down our bloodline and our dragons going forward. And Rhaena actually looked a little bit happy about that because she got some responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And
And you know that Easter egg of that, right?
yeah, those are Daenerys' dragons.
Mm-hmm. And then I mean, so I hate to put more work on us, but give a job to a black woman and she will get it done.
Yeah, she kept them dragons, them eggs safe. We know that at least.
Her and Jason Momoa's dragon.
Jason Momoa.
Remember how he's Khal Drago and she
Yeah.
goes in the fire and that's when we realized she
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
special.
yeah,
Which,
yeah.
by the way, I'm gonna have to revisit this because I'm not even sure if this shit makes sense anymore. Why would she? Are they all fireproof?
That's the thing I understand in the books that like some of them are fireproof, some of them are not, or some of them are fireproof to a point. So it's a thing that they say. We'll probably see it come up in the show. I guarantee it.
Okay. Well,
So
sorry, I don't know
Joffrey,
if this matters to you, but I got an answer to my question before.
what?
Long story short, yes, he is related to Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra has the kids that we have now. One of them has three kids, and then they are married to a Martell, which we know that comes up later. A Dane, which we haven't heard of. I haven't heard of a Blackwood, a Baratheon, and then Aerys. Prince Aerys is the Mad King. Aerys is second, and that's it. So one, two, three, four, five, six removed from Rhaenyra.
Yeah, so he way down the line. So
Mhm.
then Joffrey comes up and says bye to Rhaenyra, and they look
And
all
that's when
sad.
I realized how sad this was. Yeah, because like he's like, "Mommy," and she's like, "You gotta go." Sorry.
And then she says bye to Jaehaerys and Viserys.
What?
Viserys. What's his name?
Yeah,
Aegon. One of them was
yeah.
Aegon, and one of
There's
them was
two.
Viserys, I think.
Yeah, I guess I just want to know. I wonder if we'll see them again this season.
I don't know. That's a good question. So it's at nighttime. I'm always coughing. So then Baela tells. This is when Baela comes back from the Riverlands, which we'll talk about later. But she basically tells Rhaenyra that we saw Kristen Cole there with these people, and they got a whole army, and they about to go fuck some shit up. And
I love this scene.
what? What
I
about it?
love this scene. Just like that, she chased them niggas down.
Oh, that's in the Riverlands. I'm not going to cover that right now, but
Oh, okay,
this is
okay,
where she
okay.
came back. And Lord
Okay.
Simon was like, I want to go back to Rockret and fortify my lands. And they said we should act now and burn these
Yeah.
motherfuckers.
Wait, sorry. You're right. They were like, I need to go home. They were like, I need to
Yeah.
go check and make sure if I turned the stove off. Like, I haven't talked to my wife in a while, and she's like, you're fine. They're basically like, you are not in danger, bro. Like, they're the people that are fighting are the people that wanted to fight, basically.
And
So
Rhaenyra was like, I heard all y'all arguments. I'll consider them. She goes to talk to Massaria, and she asks if there's any way she can set up a meeting with Allison, not through a raven. And Massaria looked at her like she was crazy. She was like, you just want to talk to her? You don't want to kill her?
no. I love this. She said, "You gonna take her hostage or kill her?" And I thought she was judging her, like, "I'm not gonna help if you're gonna kill her." And then she's like, "Okay, because I'm just saying it's not worth your time unless you're gonna kill her." I was dying.
And she was like, look, how am I going to get through there? Well, I'm going to dress you like a nun. Don't nobody pay attention to a woman who dressed like a nun.
Basically, because she looks just like Rhaenyra. Like, if you know what the queen looks like it's literally like seeing Trump in a hoodie. Like, you would know that's fucking Donald Jesus Trump. You would know that, right? So it's the fact that like nobody noticed, and it's just the irony. But okay,
But you would
that's it.
never look twice at just a white dude walking around
You
in a
would
hoodie.
you would not, but I feel like that's what I'm saying. It's like you have to remember there's no newspapers,
Yeah.
there's no whatever. Like nobody knows what she looks like. So that's it's just funny because she in her mind she's like, I'm so famous, and she's like, you're literally only famous when you wear a name tag.
Yes, exactly. And she was like, and so she was like, all right, I get all the way in there. We're supposed to just hop, skip, and jump over the gates. And Massaria was like, no, there's a time and
That was
day.
hilarious.
She come out there, and y'all meet her there. And so we'll get to that in a little bit.
Hmm.
All right, let's do King's Landing last.
Okay.
So we'll do the Riverlands. So we see the Brackens and the Blackwoods. The Brackens out there joking, talking shit. The Blackwoods show up. Remember, we saw them in season 1 when Rhaenyra was being courted by all the people, and the Blackwood dude came
Mhm.
up there to talk to him, and the Bracken was like, "Fuck
Mhm.
you, I'm getting Rhaenyra," and they just killed that nigga right in front of her
Yeah.
at the
Also,
ceremony.
and people were so, I don't know if you saw this, but Twitter was so happy to see him. And I'm so sad because this is not the best cameo.
So he made a joke about killing the Black, and the Blackwoods come out of nowhere talking about you moved our boundary stones. We don't want y'all racist ass cows drinking our water. Basically, what he said. They get
Hmm.
into an argument about whose land it is. The Bracken dude called the Blackwood a babe killer. So the Brackens support Aegon, and the Blackwoods support Rhaenyra.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like they're in the middle of Iowa basically, and they're like, she killed her little nephew, and it's like like word bad news travels so fast, because like that the way that they literally sent ravens out like, hey, just want to let y'all know she did that, and it is like again, it scares me because like the propaganda is that powerful, like in pretend on this show and in real life.
Absolutely. And so after that, they just cut away. Oh, he pulls his knife. He pulls his sword out.
Yeah,
He
and he's
unsheathed
like
his sword,
he's like what basically he's like what you gonna do?
and then they
What
cut
you
away. They come back. All these niggas is dead. It's just a big ass
everybody's
fight.
dead.
It's
Yep.
all like in the water, all that shit. And that made me think. I was like, back in the day when they used to have battles like this, they just used to leave the bodies out there, just like in the middle of the
Who
fucking
is there to
field.
clean it up?
Like that shit
Who,
is
yeah,
wild. Like people
but
were
I mean, because they're
human beings
yeah,
were
it's because
wild.
it's not a, but it's also not like an organized war with an army, right? So if they were marching with an army, then they would have like I guess people whose job that is. This is just people who were gonna fight anyway, and they couldn't wait, and then it just
Yes.
happened, and they had like enough to spur them forward. And it's crazy too. It just shows how stupid war is because now it's nobody's land.
No. Absolutely. Well, there's still some left, but apparently these niggas been fighting for centuries
Yeah,
for
so,
no
but
fucking
it's
reason.
yeah, and then we find out later that like the one that people were excited about, this Blackwood I don't know which one that people like, he's also dead, even though we didn't see him die. So it's like your faves are dying, and it's a sign of things to come.
So Damon flies in on Caraxes in the Heron Hall, and this nigga armor is fire though.
Hilarious.
I love his fucking armor.
This was one of my favorite scenes because he basically is like ready for war, like going around every corner, and like basically there's nobody there. It's still rainy, it's
Yeah,
still wet.
he ready to
Like
fight
everybody's in the
somebody.
house. Yeah, everybody's in the house. He knocks out one person, and he's like, and I'm thinking, okay, at one point I'm like, is this an ambush? He, I promise you, this is one of my favorite scenes ever. He walks in, and dude is like, he's like, Heron Hall is mine. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
got right up and said, here you go, Rhaenyra is my queen. What's up? Do you want? And then he tells him what's for dinner.
Yeah, that's Simon Strong. So he's like related to
They're
Laris
strong. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Breakbones, who was breaking Rhaenyra's back. Um, so he's related to. He's one of them strong. And by the way, all the Strongs can fight except Laris. So
I just realized who's breaking her back. I was like, somebody tortured her, and you're not talking about that.
Breakbones
Breaking
is breaking
backs
her
in
back.
this show, breaking backs in this show is torture, though. So you gotta use better.
Is it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of sex in this show too. More in Game of Thrones than this show. Although this episode we'll get to.
We saw Peen. Okay.
Multiple, actually. So they all bend the knee, as Chanel said, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, we got aged venison, black cabbage, and peas for supper." And Damon looking at that shit like, "I'm not finna get poisoned. Y'all tripping." And Simon's like, "Dog, you are welcome here. We're not fucking with you." And then Damon was like, "Oh yeah, what about your lord, Larry Strong?" And Simon was like, "Oh, you mean Clarence Clubfoot? That nigga ain't no lord of mine. I don't fuck with him. Listen,
We literally do not trust him.
he's a scourge. You think Will know what he did to his brother and his daddy? Look at this place. It's wet as shit. But we had a fire out of nowhere, and those two niggas happened to die. Really? We think that's a fucking accident, and now he's the lord? No, we don't fuck with him. Fuck him."
He said, like literally, when it's cold, we can't even get the fire to start. So that's how we know it's arson.
And he was like, "Yeah, it's the first fire since Balerion, the dragon that Aegon the Conqueror was driving, came here and burnt this shit to pieces." And then he said, "My prince," and then Damon was like, "No, your grace," because he's king consort. He wants to be referred to as that. And so Simon says, "So what? Anyway, what brings you to our corner of the Riverlands?" And Damon was like, I'm gonna get Heron Hall. I'm gonna unite everybody around. And then we gonna march on King's Landing. That's what the fuck we gonna do." And Simon was like, "You want to fortify this place? First of all, even if you gave me the coin, like this shit big as fuck. Like this gonna take a lot of work." And he was like, "The Brackens and the Blackwoods, they've been at war with each other for a long time. They don't even know why they fucking fighting." And then Damon was like, "So what about the Lord?" And Simon was like, "Oh, Lord Tully, That nigga decrepit. He can't even walk. We don't even think he can take a shit.
Simon had me crying. He was literally he had the tea on everybody. He was like, "That nigga, he's not a threat." Just letting you know.
He was like, I don't. Nobody listens to him. They don't even think he can take a shit on his own. And Damon was like, it doesn't matter what condition that he's in. Everybody should listen to their liege lord. So I want to talk to him anyway. And he was like,
But I have a question. Did they have royal outhouses? Where were the royals using the bathroom?
they got their own bathrooms. You know, like Allison go in the bathroom to take a bath.
But so somebody's like they're pooping in buckets and somebody is
Yeah,
in
I don't
charge.
think they had.
Got it.
So
They didn't have to go
the
outside.
Romans had a plumbing system,
Right.
but I think in the Dark Ages they didn't know how to do that shit. Like they basically deleted all the records because they forgot how to do all that shit that they already had figured out, and then it didn't come back during like this
Okay,
time
got it.
period in the King's
Yep.
shit.
That's what happens when you go to war and destroy all the culture and the history and the books.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. And so Damon said, perhaps the presence of the crown and the dragon will sharpen their minds. And Simon was like, so what happens if you're successful? And that's when Damon tells him, we're going to march on King's Landing and take the throne. So
And he's like, yeah, got it. Sounds great.
then we see, we'll get to how this happened, but Chrissy and Sir Gawain, that's his name, Gawain, Alice's brother, are riding out, and the whole encampment is back somewhere. And Chrissy's like, what the fuck are you doing? And Gawain was like, look,
I'm going to a hotel.
Hey, there's a resort over there. They got it's an all-inclusive resort. I'm going to go put my feet up, chill, get fed.
He didn't even say it was a resort. He said it's a Motel 8 over there and y'all want to sleep in the car. And I just don't see why I can't. Like, it's not even that crazy. And he was like, and if it's comfortable, I'll be there after breakfast.
But this
if
reminds
it's not comfortable,
me that it's been peace so long. All these rich niggas don't know shit about war or how to fight.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll give Kristen Cole credit is that he from Dorne. He fought in the war. We learned that in season 1 while he fucked him up in that exhibition because he actually fought in the war. Like, he knows war shit. And so they was all like taking it silly. Christian Cole looked up in the sky. He see the dragon, was like, we are exposed. We got to get the fuck out of there. And this is where we had the actual action scene.
Their
Baela,
eyesight is crazy.
Yeah, Baela got binocular eyes. She all the way up there. She's like, who that? And she,
I was watching it like, I don't even see them from where she's at.
And she swoops down and she started chasing them with a moon dancer. I don't think she was actually going to do shit. Maybe she was.
She wasn't, but it was. I mean, it might have. This is how things happen, but I think she was just like, "There's no way I'm passing up this opportunity to see some action."
And so she flies down there, scares them. They run into the forest.
When I tell you they hauled ass.
Yeah, they was hauling ass. Sir Gawain was like, "I owe you my life. Like you saved me."
Like, okay, you might know what you're talking about.
That's exactly what she said. And he looked so shook. And then they cut back to Damon. He in his bedroom. It's a leak. That shit was so annoying too, by the way. Especially like in a loud ass place like that. It was just leaking at nighttime. There's no way I'd be able to sleep.
I mean, it's like he literally, I guess he put himself in the doghouse, but it's just like, imagine, it's like basically going off to war and and thinking that like you're serving the country and then you're just in barracks in like Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? It's just like he's just stuck there in that creaky ass castle, just trying to be a hero.
And he hears somebody banging on the fucking door. He grabs his sword. They keep banging, they keep banging, they keep banging. He finally opens the door. There's no one there. He walks around and he sees a woman. And then you realize, oh, this nigga is tripping. Because the person who he sees is young Rhaenyra, Millie Alcock Rhaenyra. And she's sewing Jaehaerys' neck back, and she says, always coming and going, aren't you? And I have to clean up afterwards. And then he blacks out, and he wakes up in real life under a godswood tree, which is outside of Harrenhal. And then Alice Rivers, her name Alice, Alys, that's her name, Alice Rivers, who is known as the Witch of the Riverlands, shows up. That's who that woman is in the black. And she looks at him dead in her face and says, "You gonna die here," and just walks the fuck off.
Okay, on one end, I was relieved because I thought that was gonna be like his new wife. Like when I saw a woman, I was like, "Oh my god, here come Damon about to fuck it up again." And then on the other end, I'm terrified because I didn't. This is when I started looking things up. I'm not gonna lie, but you don't have to look it up to know like when somebody walks in and walks out like that, they're not lying. Like you could just know in some way, shape, or form she knows what she's talking about. I knew that just from looking at her.
Absolutely. Okay, and so I got now to go to King's Landing. I got a bunch of clips for King's Landing because they had some good ass scenes here. So they go to Chrissy Cole's in his chambers, and his handler tells him they waiting, and he looked nervous as fuck. And I was like, he walking through the halls, and then the King's Guard just sitting down. I was like, these niggas definitely not supposed to be just be sitting down on some steps and shit. We find out why this is happening later. I'll get to it. And then I was like, this nigga showed up late to his first day of work. The fuck is wrong with him? So he shows up to the Green morning meeting, and then we get this. I have the whole scene of this meeting because I thought it was pretty good. Oh, I got the wrong picture up. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. Can you hear this?
Forgive my lateness.
Important business, no doubt.
You've appointed new knights to the King's Guard, Your Grace.
To replace those we lost.
The last one needlessly, some might say.
That was so fucking shady. By the way, I just have to say, these niggas are sick of Kristen Cole already. I think Chanel might have dropped by accident. So Chanel dropped a little bit. I'm telling her to log out of the link and come back in because I can't see her. But okay, so yeah, these niggas hate Kristen Cole already. The shade. He's like, oh, we lost some soldiers. Some needlessly, I might add.
Sir Alaric was awarded the great duty of ending Rhaenyra's challenge. He failed to discharge it.
He failed because the scheme was rash.
Perhaps, Your Grace, but we cannot all hide in our castles waiting for war to come to us.
As now it surely will.
As now, it already has. House Bracken took it upon themselves to attack the Blackwoods, who declared for the Pretender. Lord Samuel Blackwood himself is slain.
Good. First blood in our name.
Both sides took heavy losses, Your Grace. I'm not entirely certain we can declare this a victory.
The Blackwoods and the Brackens have feuded for centuries. This is nothing more than an excuse for them to indulge their ancient grudge. It's no true war.
Call it what you will. I call it war. And so will Dragonstone. The question is, what are we going to do about it?
We send a raven to...
So at this point, they all looking around. Y'all can't see this because I didn't get the clip, so I'm not trying to get fined. But they looking around and they waiting for their hand to say some shit, right? This is where the hand usually comes in, and it's like, yeah, I think we should do this. This is the good idea for this or that. They all kind of like side-eyeing Kristen Cole because this nigga don't know what the fuck to do. He'll know, like, he don't have no strategy, nothing. He's just a fucking jock. And so then he comes up with this stupid-ass idea.
Lord Tully. These houses are his vassals, are they not? He must control them.
Lord Grover Tully is a flaccid old fool who couldn't control his cock and a cunny. Begging your pardon, Your Grace.
Yeah. I thought this shit was so funny because these niggas talk about killing people, wars, like all this horrible shit, people getting beheaded, all types of shit. But I can't say he can't put his cock in his cunning. I'm sorry, Your Grace. I'm sorry for my crude language in front of you, Your Grace.
Have any better suggestions, Lord Jasper?
Your Lord Uncle Ormond marches from Oldtown at the head of a great host, Your Grace. And your brother Darren's dragon nears fighting age. Call on them to suppress the Riverlands.
Alas, they are months away. My lord brother Jason is raising a great army at Castle Rock.
In a matter of weeks, he will be able to harass the Blackwoods from the west.
Should we not aim to unite these armies and then strike as one?
Ah, the great military mind of the Citadel. Do remind me.
They got a black maester, by the way. And I was calling that nigga Tim Scott because I was like, why would you join these people? They clearly not finna listen to you. Are you just tap dancing for them doing the job of the Greens? But he was trying to speak, but unlike Tim Scott, he was trying to kick knowledge to them, tell them some smart shit to do. But of course, they're not listening to this nigga.
Which link in your chain denotes the art of war?
This council must rediscover the discipline it lately had if it's to be of any use.
The Riverlands are the key to the war. Harrenhal is the key to the Riverlands. I will ride out with those I can muster here. Men I know, men are trained.
You need time to raise the numbers to challenge the Rivermen.
Speed is my ally. I will turn the Crown land houses who declared for Rhaenyra to our cause. We will add their numbers to our own and then turn west, where I will enlist the Brackens, subdue the Riverlands, and take Harrenhal.
So impatient to ride with so few men. So like to be destroyed by the first stronghold you meet. A bold scheme indeed.
Well, the gods favor the bold.
They did not favor Sir Eric.
What say you, my king?
And you'll take Aemond and Vhagar?
Vhagar will remain here to defend the city.
Good. To war, then.
So Aegon is so dick hard ready to go to war. Like but he not actually ready, but he trying to convince himself that he's ready. That he talking about, I'm gonna go to war with y'all and we're gonna take Aegon, we're gonna take Vhagar and all this shit. And Christian Cole was like, no, we're not taking no fucking dragon. Because the key to this shit is to be quick, to get in and out, and for nobody to see this shit. And you out here, but in real life, what he's saying is, you not ready for this shit, my nigga. Like, you are not ready for no war. You not ready to handle this shit. So I'm not taking you. Like, that's just not happening. And I was like, I would love to see Aegon on Sunfire trying to do some shit. He don't got that dog in him. He don't got that in him at all. Aemon was like, Aemon knows the same thing, because Aemon was like, yeah, brother, that's why you need to stay, because we cannot risk your loss, just playing to his fucking ego. But Aemon knows he's not ready to fight either. But Aegon listens because they're kind of stroking his ego a little bit. And so they cut to Chrissy Cole, and he got a whole crew of soldiers with him. And Alicent comes up and introduces her brother, Sir Gawain. And Gawain was like, how exhilarating it was to travel here for 3 months, only to see my lord father fired and replaced by a peasant. He ain't called him a peasant, but he essentially called him a peasant. He was like, you really pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, haven't you, buddy? To become all the way to be Lord Hand. And Christian Cole, and I was like, you got to be a real asshole to be more of an asshole than Christian Cole. But this nigga looked like a whole ass frat bro, like rich kid, like asshole. And he leaves and goes to get on his fucking, Alicent was like, my brother's going to accompany you in battle. And Alicent's being so formal right now, like you weren't just fucking this nigga for weeks. And so Chrissy was like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can I have your favor? And she gives him a handkerchief out her bra. I still don't understand this favor shit. Like, I really don't understand it.
Okay, I'm back. I'm alive. I think it's a token of like, I think it's like this idea that women are like the lucky, or like luck and divinity. Like, it's almost like a psychic giving you good fortune. It's like a token of something, and I guess if there's something in real life that reminds me of it, it's like people going to war and the woman giving them something before they go.
Okay, I mean that's what it is.
I don't know if that's real though, but yeah.
So then they roll out towards the Riverlands. Alicent is meeting with Helena, talking to her daughter. It's Alicent. Helena says she misses Jaehaerys, but she's been thinking about it for a while. And she was like, people just be dying, B. People die all the time. And Allison was like,
She said niggas get shot every day.
Allison was like, it's okay to have grief and be sad. Like, it's okay. And Helena was like, yeah, but I was thinking, when we was out there in the procession, all those small folks was coming out to me. I'm sure they lose their kids way more than us of the crown, the highborns. And if they can deal with that shit, I should be able to deal with that shit. And Allison was like, the stranger comes for us all. The rich people, basically the rich people and the poor, like we all can get affected by this shit. And so Helena said, well, what about you? And Allison was like, I loved you, Harris, but my main concern is you. Like, I'm worried about you. I want to make sure you're okay. And Helena stands up and was just like, I forgive you. Because she knew what she really is like fucked up about. Like, she still blames herself because she was fucking Kristen Cole. Maybe it could have saved her. It probably wouldn't have, but maybe it could have saved her.
They just would have actually been asleep. They actually would have been in bed.
Yeah.
Like, there's no protocol.
But Helena was like, I forgive you. Like, I'm not, like, I'm past that. So then they cut to Aegon getting dressed, and his crew is hyping him. And so what we found is that if you remember in season 1, all the shit Christian Cole had to do to get a white cloak, right, to become a Kingsguard. This nigga Aegon was like, oh, I hired these niggas yesterday. Like, I put them through 1 day of training, they good. And we see that because they cracking jokes and shit. They talking about fucking. And even Aegon's like, I thought y'all had to, like, swear to, like, celibacy and shit. And they start laughing.
And they're like,
because these are his boys. He basically just hired his boys. And I'm like, you are the king. Why would you hire your boys to guard you? They don't know what the fuck they doing. And so Laris comes in and he said, I heard there's a rumor the king gonna go to war. And Laris, and he was like, where'd you hear that from? And he was basically like, yeah, that's just a bad idea. And I got this scene because Laris is funny as shit to me. And here we go.
What is it to you? Only that I think it would benefit all of us to prevent our king from being brutally slain by our enemies and his body parts scattered to beasts and his court come to ruin. Would you not agree?
His body parts scattered to beast. I love it.
What exquisite armor?
I was given the Conqueror's name and his crown, so I shall wear his armor to war. I fly to meet Sir Criston.
Small imposition before you depart, then, Your Grace. There are diverse rumors whispered on the streets of your city. One such is that Your Grace sends his forces to battle, and in his courage and wisdom flies with them. Another is that his Grace was outwitted by his councillors and persuaded to fly to war with Sir Criston, so that Queen Alicent may reign in his absence.
This nigga's so manipulative. Like, he just be playing these niggas like a fiddle. All of them.
With Prince Aemond at her side. Absurd, of course.
Absurd, of course.
Who spreads these lies?
Matters little. Tales take on a life of their own. Like weeds, unless they are tended.
Well, tend to them, then.
Lord Laris, my father always said he had no use for a master of whisperers. And yet, I find myself wanting for one. I should be glad of your talents.
You honor me, Your Grace.
I should be glad of your talents. I love that too. And so now he got a new Master of Whispers, Lord Laris. So we got the Battle of Whispers.
I forgot he wasn't officially that already.
No, because we didn't see that nigga in the meetings. So he was just in the background.
Okay, I forgot that it's an official thing.
Yeah, because remember Varys in Game of Thrones, he would be up in the meetings every time with the council. I love how he just plays to his ego. Oh, you look good in that suit, King. Like that shit fits you good.
And he's not smart. It's giving. It's almost so like the egomaniac thing is something that's terrifying, right? And I think that TV shows like Game of Thrones is an old show, or old book, old show. I guess a lot of stuff that's adaptations are also old, but anyway, TV shows I think are exploring more of like how terrifying it is when somebody who has all of the like social and political power of like being an able-bodied white man or able-bodied straight man is able to be in power and is also like an asshole or like a megalomaniac. And so it reminds me of The Boys in that way of like it's like both of them are terrifying in it's like where people are tiptoeing around them. Obviously Homelander is scarier, but also Homelander is smart enough to know he knows that people are what's the word, not gratifying, but like people are bowing to him, right? Like he knows that. And Aegon is not smart enough to be aware of it. Like, why are they tiptoeing around you? Is it because they think you're so stupid you'll press the red button, or is it because like they actually respect you? And so it just anyway, power in the wrong person's hand is truly terrifying.
But just like The Boys, there's maybe the scariest person, at least in the first few seasons, was Stan Edgar, Giancarlo Esposito's character. And he had no powers. And he wasn't violent like Butcher, but his having the pulse on everything and knowing everything, and is able to manipulate all these people who could. Cole Lambert could kill him by plucking him, but he never did because he knew how to always pull those triggers, and that was real power in a way. Right. Just like Laris here. So they cut. So the guards was like, "Hey, dog, King, you gonna come out with us? We got a new squire. He ain't never got none. He never even put the tip in." And Aegon was like, "I thought y'all was sworn to chastity." And they started laughing, and then he looked at him, and then they got serious, and then he smiled. So Aegon's still one of those people.
But I almost feel like he was like, "Wait, should I take my job seriously?" And he was like, "Nah." But like, it did happen for a moment.
So then they cut to downtown King's Landing, and they about to go to the club, and we see this dude walking into the club, and he walking over to get a table and some shit. And this nigga name is Ulf White. That's his name. And he walk in the club. He starts speaking to everybody. Like on the Chappelle show where he came into the club and when they did the club scene and he's pointing and checking everybody out and slapping hands. That's basically what Ulf was doing. Everybody was speaking to him. He pulled up to his table. He was like, I had a long day, man. And the other guy at the table was like, "Hey, dog, we got a table. We got bottle service. Let me call the bottle girl." The bottle girl came over, brought them some mead so he can start to get loose and shit. And he was like, look. He was like, "Oh, it's cool to drink with a Dornish man." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm a Dornish man, but like the Dornish are cool. Even they mourned the passing of my grandsire." And I was like, "You just want to tell somebody. You've been dying to tell somebody this shit."
This is so foolish.
And they was like, "Who's your grandsire?" And he was like, King Jaehaerys. He was like, "I'm the son of Balon the Brave, bastard brother to Prince Daemon and King Viserys, and uncle to the one true queen, Rhaenyra Targaryen." And he was like, "But you gotta be careful who you tell about this shit, because they'll take my head for this shit." And I was like, "Why are you telling these niggas? They must be your boys. You must be able to trust your boys."
Yeah, and it's also like I believed him, but I'm also like, it's just obviously like it's the writing, but the irony of this moment of him talking all that shit, and then they're like, "Wait, your brother's right there." But like, how often does he do this? You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, is this like a party trick every week?
And what's interesting is, so Balon is the bastard son of Viserys and Daemon's daddy. So he a bastard, and then he had a bastard who is this nigga. And so we found out last year that there's a lot of Targaryen bastards running around in King's Landing. So maybe we'll see some of these people.
But they're literally like, "Are you silver-haired or are you just like going gray? Like, why are you trying to play with us?"
And he was like, "Bitch, my nephew got dark hair. What the fuck you mean?" He's talking about Jace. And he was like, and he said that shit loud as shit, and everybody got quiet. And I was like, oh shit, somebody walked in and heard this nigga talking shit. But
I thought so too.
They didn't. Aegon came in, and Aegon was like, drinks for everyone at the pleasure of the crown. And he come in there partying and shit. And he got his young squire. And he got him drunk and shit. And I was like, this nigga's a whole ass frat boy. So then they go to the brothel. And Aegon is talking shit like, oh, I went here, I've been here, I've been there. He opened the first room. There's somebody in there getting head. And he was like, oh, you can get somebody better than that, though. That's what he said. And then they went to another room, and it's like a big-ass orgy. And then they go into the big room, and Aemon in there cuddling. He back again, cuddling and shit. And
yeah,
I got the scene with that with Aemon and Aegon.
Aemon the Fierce! You have come so far, and yet you still lie with your very first. What a fine, sweet thing. Did you fuck her like a hound? Woo! 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 You see, I do not exaggerate. Such is the madam's prowess that even now my brother will not sample another. Hard luck for your squire, though. As you can see, she's now very much occupied.
Your squire is welcome to her. One oar is as good as another.
This nigga just stood up, butt ass naked. We got full frontal nudity, which, you know, it's not my cup of tea. But I've done a lot of podcasts with a lot of women who tell me if we're going to see all these titties on TV, I should see some dongs sometime. So we got to have some fairness.
Yeah, I mean, I think Game of Thrones has always been somewhat gratuitous, but they're being very tasteful now to where like you notice it versus you're like being inundated by the nudity.
Yeah, because we didn't see it that much last season at all.
Exactly, yeah.
And he just walked out. He just walked the fuck out. So we are to assume.
Yeah, it was like he walked out. He didn't get a robe.
No,
he didn't get hoop shorts. He just walked out, and it's such a like. Yeah, I mean, because he can't punch his brother in the face, you know.
Isn't it funny though, like how, not that this is real life, but like back in those times, sex work was like more respected than it is. Well, now it's coming around. People starting to respect sex work, but like 20 years ago, like brothel was like a legitimate business back then. 20 years ago, if you talking about going to a brothel, people looked at you sideways, like you couldn't say shit. These niggas just be in the brothel, the king in the fucking brothel.
Well, I mean, as you know, it just really goes back to like politics and what people can make money off of.
Yeah, I mean, they could have regulated sex work and
should.
taxed that shit. They could have done that shit. Then they would have had much less sexual assaults because people could tell them they were doing that shit, and the government would have made money, crazy money off of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, like, you know, controversial opinion, and I don't know if I've shared this on this podcast, but I'm definitely all for like legalizing most things that people think are crazy, because that's actually the only, like, at no point in time has people stopped doing those things. So the only way that actually makes sense to reduce it is to police it. Because even like, you know, having guns or like doing crimes, that's all very much reduced by having some type of system in place. But, you know.
Yes, well regulated.
Yeah.
And so then this is where we see Rhaenyra, the last scene, sneaking into the church, and she walking through King's Landing. And
oh, I know she was anxious, because the way that I would be nervous, like, and the funniest part is they were like checking passports, like they were doing, what's it called? They were doing border patrol, and she still walked right on in.
Yeah, because she looked like a nun, and she basically walked into the scepter, and Allison in there lighting her candles and shit that she do every fucking day. And she walks up, sits, lights a candle. They kind of had the camera cut low so you can't see her face. And then they seal her arm, and she like pull out a shiv, and she's like, "Don't say shit, Allison." And Allison's like, "What the fuck?" And she's like, "I'm not gonna kill you, like, but don't run off." And Allison was like, "What if I run off?" And she was like, "Well, then your guards will probably come and kill me, but I'll kill you first. And Elsa was like, and then what?
And she was like, huh. I've begun wrongly. What did she say?
Yeah, she said I've begun wrongly.
I love that. That's such a I'm gonna start doing that whenever I have like an awkward interaction with a man.
I've begun wrongly.
Let's start over.
And then she said no. She said I have begun badly. Is what she said.
Badly, yes.
She basically says we used to be best friends. Like the last time we was in here, we went to saw that big ass fight. Remember that shit? And she was like
years ago.
But these people, man, this war about to get really bad. I know you don't want that because I don't want that shit. And she was like, Rhaenys counseled me, said you don't want to fight. And Allison was like, oh, you came to surrender? And
bitch.
Allison was like, she was like, no, I come to talk terms about how we can make this peaceful. And Allison was like, there are no terms. You don't got no army. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, Rhaenyra? And Rhaenyra was like this, like, you murdered my fucking son. And Allison was like, I did not do that shit. And then Rhaenyra was like,
no. First, she accuses Rhaenyra first.
Yeah, she accused Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra was like, no, I did not do that shit. That was not my order. And she was like, but you killed my son. And Allison was like, no, I repudiate that with all my heart. Was her exact words. And then Rhaenyra was like, of course, I believe you. And she was like, but what about my inheritance though? You stole that. And Rhaenyra said, to stoop so low, and you're gonna kill thousands of people for this scheme. And Rhaenyra was like, I saw my daddy that night. He was fucked up, but he still wanted me to be his heir. At no point did he not tell me he didn't want me to be his heir. He been saying that shit since my mama died. So I'm supposed to believe that all of a sudden one night he just up and decided that I'm not finna be his heir right before he died.
And she's like, I swear that's what he said. Like you said, she does believe it.
Yeah, she was like, I swear on my mama's name, like that's what happened. And I have
so
this.
It makes Rhaenyra pause.
Yeah, Rhaenyra believes that Allison believes it. Is what at this point she's like, I basically believe that you think you're telling the truth. And so then Allison, then we get this part.
I was screaming at my TV. I said, ask her, what did he say? I was screaming it.
And here we go.
I swear this to you on the memory of my mother. I have been at times unkind, but never untrue.
I love that. I had been at times unkind, but never untrue.
I pronounced before all gathered in that room that you would make a fine queen. Do you think me capable of such naked deceit? What did he say at the end? Did he speak my name? He was weary. It was hard at times to understand. But he spoke Aegon's name. He said he was the prince that was promised to unite the realm.
What?
I didn't say what? But it was
Did my father use those words? The prince that was promised. Did he?
Yes, he did.
He spoke to you of the Song of Ice and Fire. It's a story he once told. About Aegon the Conqueror.
The Conqueror. You must go before you are discovered.
There's been a mistake.
There's been no mistake. Please.
This was really good. Allison at that point realizes I fucked up. Like I didn't realize this, but
I mean, she also like did because I remember like she just ran so hard with it, and she did have the choice, devout or not, to be like, this nigga was on the way out. Like maybe he didn't. You know what I mean? Like maybe, like Rhaenyra said, he did that since the day that my mother died. He said it was gonna be me anyway.
But also, she don't realize that she thinks that that's why it happened. But Otto was planning this shit regardless. They were going to have that coup anyway. And she thinks that she thinks it was legitimate while everybody else there knows that it wasn't. That's why they killed Lord Beesbury, like smashed his head because he tried to stand up. Was like, this shit is treason. Like, what the fuck are y'all doing? And Christian Cole smashed his head in the fucking ball last year.
All that, yeah.
So she says, look, and Rhaenyra was like, you can prevent this. Don't let your pride blind you. And Allison was like, listen, Rhaenyra, you're my best friend. But Cole is on the march. Aemon's got the dragon. He's ready to go fight. You see, like, you know how Aegon is. It's too late. Like, there's nothing stopping these niggas at this point. There's nothing I can say. They don't even listen to me no more. I be in the council. They just be out there talking shit. There's nothing I can say that can stop this.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra looked at her and was basically like, you right. Like, she was basically like, you right. And Allison walked off, and she tried that card. But at this point, Rhaenyra now knows, like, hey, dog, it's just going to have to be a war. Like, that's what's going to have to happen.
I don't think Rhaenyra was like, you right. I think Rhaenyra was like, wow, okay. Wow. Like, it was just really hitting her that she had risked her life to go in this war. And not only is no one going to know that she went out of her way to do that, right? But it's like, I guess like technically if the book was written from accounts, whatever. But like she's really like, I just have to send my kids away to protect them. And you have a kid that's dead, grandchild that's dead. I have another kid. Like, it's just too much, and it is too late. But that's why I've been mad at Allison this whole time. Is like her foolishness and her faith. And I think we probably made this point before, where like it is reminiscent of women who vote against other women's interests, thinking like it's my faith that's driving you. And it's like, okay, but there are men contextualizing that faith for you in a way that's very convenient for them and helps them and hurts you and using you as a pawn. And she did exactly what most women do when they have that realization, which is like hide in the sand, because you're like, okay, it's already too far gone.
Yeah, I mean, she probably could say something, but I just imagine if Allison shows up at the Greens meeting the next morning, it was like, yo, guess what? Rhaenyra was here yesterday, and they're gonna be like, Rhaenyra was here, you ain't say shit. Like, they might kill her for that shit and accuse her of treason.
And even if she said, you know what, I was lying, it was Viserys never said that. They, like you said, they wouldn't care because this was what they wanted no matter what. So
yeah,
that was just a convenient narrative for them.
And so that was the end of this episode. And I was like, that was a great way to end this, because now everything is settled. Like, that was the big thing that was hovering over everyone. It was like, Rhaenyra needed to know why this shit happens. Now she knew why this shit happened. And it's no diplomatic way around this. It's about to be fights. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to these fights.
I also appreciate that, like, yeah, she, like you said, she knows what happens. We all get clarity. We know that, like, we know that misinformation or miscommunication or not, this was inevitable. And that's what's terrifying about it, probably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so last episode, we actually did a whole Love Island conversation. We did a whole The Boys conversation. And we just don't have time for it now. So we will try next episode. I will try to give you guys those recaps and that information. Because I'm very sad that you missed that, because I was telling Brandon all about Love Island. And there's so many things happening right now. They just got to Casa more. And so I just really want to be able to share that.
Next 2 weeks, because Chanel will be out next week. So
oh my God, yeah.
We'll have a guest. I don't want to spoil it yet, but we'll have a guest, probably some you all have heard of, who will be reviewing episode 4 with us next week. And Chanel will be back for episode 5, refreshed and ready to go.
I will. And as you guys know, whenever we have guests, they're usually pretty good. If you ever want to go back and like recap the first season with us, we had some great guests and some really good conversations. Also, Brandon, you have 22 people watching on your stream, and I have 3 watching on mine. Shout out to the Twitch. Oh my God, Twitch. Shout out to the Twitter X people who are listening. Instagram didn't get going, and that's okay. We'll fix it for next time. And then thank you for watching. If you've been watching on YouTube.
And for that, for Chanel and Brandon, we'll be back next week for episode 4. Thank you all for listening, and talk to y'all later.